Hello and welcome back to the Battle Room. My name is, of course, the Battle Room. And today we have not one, but two tournaments. One being a giant offline Japanese tournament that took place this last weekend, and also a giant Victory Road tournament with thousands of dollars on the line. We have a ton of metagame adjustments and metagame analysis to perform on these teams today and to figure out what is going to be good going into the World Championships. These are the final two big tournaments. Now, there might be tournaments next weekend, but these are like the big huzzah, the grand final tournaments going into Worlds. So the metagame might have some small adjustments here and there, but I think these are the ones that are really going to lay the foundation of what we're going to see at the World Championships. So without further ado, we're going to start with Victory Road. Again, timestamps are down below if you don't care about Victory Road. If you've already seen someone do this tournament, skip to the Japanese one because I don't think anyone's done that one yet. But we're going to break down a little bit of the Japanese teams as well. But let's start with Victory Road. I'm trapped on a giant plate of spaghetti with marinara sauce. What will I do? What will save me? Probably subscribing to the Battle Room. I think that's the only way. Please subscribe. I hope you enjoyed the team breakdown. Back to the spaghetti. Please don't pick me up with the fork. All right, let's take a look at these teams. We're going to start with Sebastian here. So Sebastian's team looks kind of normal until you realize there's not a Charizard there. So Whimsicott and Floette are pretty standard fare here. Nothing super duper crazy. You have the double fairy lead that you can pair incredibly well. Just standard movesets, Modest, Floette instead of Timid. But then we have an Adamant, Charcoal Incineroar with Flare Blitz, Dark Lariat, Fake Out, and Protect. There's no Toxic because I think Toxic, like when you run Incineroar on the Toxapex teams spamming Toxic, I think it's really powerful to Fake Out and then on the next turn just protect him. It's basically just 2 turns of Toxic damage guaranteed, which I think is very strong, but this team doesn't have that. It just has Protect because Protect's a great move. All 6 Pokemon are carrying the Protect. Obviously, the Incineroar is there as well to enable stuff like the King Gambit. Like, you can pair these two together really well. You can press Fake Out, you can press Swords Dance, you can get going. Pretty standard Garchomp bulky with the Citrus Berry and then a standard Life Orb Basculegion. It is a pretty normal Big 6 team, but the Incineroar is just absolutely crazy. And then we have Tyler's team. I'm going to be going a little bit faster than I normally do, just because there's a lot of teams to talk about and a lot of ground to cover. So we have a Frostless Glaceon team. That's crazy. But not only is it Frostless Glaceon, it's also Frostless Glaceon and Mega Glimmora. The Mega Glimmora is interesting because Glaceon just seems like a Pokemon that really needs its buddy Frostless to function. And I don't think I've ever seen Frostless or Glaceon on a not a solo Mega Frostless team, right? Because again, like they're not setting up the hail for you, so you're just trying to set it up. But I guess at the same time, Freeze Dry is an incredible move, so maybe it makes it worth it. But then we've got Talonflame to pair with the Glimmora fast mode, so we have that Tailwind. You don't see a lot of Talonflame, honestly, not too much. I think Life Orb Talonflame does hit incredibly hard, so it is very cool to see. It also does enable both Frostless and the Glimmora. I think Frostless does appreciate Tailwind just because of the state of the game is so Whimsicott focused, so Tailwind focused. So having your own Predator Tailwind, even if you're using Frostless, is kind of important. Glimmora is going to be max speed timid because that is what you need when you run Glimmora, because Mega Glimmora hits a very good speed stat. So having you kind of just need to be that timid nature. Then we actually have a naughty little Sneasel here with Fake Out, Direct Claw, Close Combat, and Protect. The reason you run naughty is actually to get your own procs on Unburden more often, because things like Dazzling Gleam from Floette or Charizard Heat Wave don't exactly knock you down to Sash. They do a lot of damage and you're in the red, but you're not at Sash, so you don't get that Unburden proc. So the naughty nature is there to further enable that, which I think is actually pretty cool. And then we have a low kick King Gambit with just double dark, because you don't really need a steel coverage move when you have a Mega Glimmora on your side. So overall, a very cool team. Crazy to see Glaceon doing this well in the tournament, but I feel like it's just, what I'll say about this format, if you look at all the teams here and you look at even like Tyler's team, right, with this Mega Glimmora Glaceon team, which is absolutely crazy, I think this is a format of comfort. I think at the World Championships, I do think that someone could cook something very strong and win with some crazy team. I think that could happen. But I also think that it's very likely that you'll notice almost everyone's just playing the team that they like the most or that they've found the most success with, right? And that's just kind of how the format functions. You pick your favorite archetype and you roll with the punches and you just try to do your best. And Tyler, he said, hey, I'm a Glaceon one trick for whatever reason. He got really into Glaceon Mega Gamora and he made it work for himself and found himself in the top cut of one of the most important online tournaments of the year. So very, very cool from Tyler. Next up here is going to be Wanma using the pretty standard Venusaur Sylveon team. I would say that this team is probably one of the most important teams in the entire metagame right now. This seems to be the final version of this team. Obviously, there could be slight adjustments. We might see some things change at the World Championships, but as of right now, I think this is the version that a lot of people are going to see. Like this is the last big tournament, right? There's nothing left, and I think in Japan this team went absolutely nuts, and I just expect to see this a ton at the World Championships. This might be the most popular team going into the tournament, so I think it's important to break it down and to understand it. So it's actually a solo Mega Charizard Y team. This is the final crowned Toxapex team. So what they've realized is that Charizard, in the past, it was running Helping Hand, and then it was running Solar Beam and stuff like that. But they realized that Ancient Power Charizard is actually the sauce. Ancient Power is just really, really good because it doesn't actually one-shot enemy Charizards, especially if you're timid. But the thing is, what it does do is it allows you to KO them after they've taken some chip, right? Especially because you are the timid nature as well. You can set up some really nice, easy combos, such as Sludge Bomb plus Ancient Power, right? Or even Weather Ball, right? Like you just need to do, well, actually, okay, I shouldn't say Weather Ball. I should say Leaf Storm. That's what I meant to say. But I think at the same time, maybe you shouldn't Leaf Storm plus Ancient Power. But I think it still might kill the Charizard. It kind of depends on the damage. But also stuff like Heat Wave Ancient Power can get very, very close depending on the bulk of the enemy Charizard. So it's just like, it doesn't one-shot, but it puts a ton of pressure onto Charizard because you're doing like 90%. So it turns out doing 90% to Charizard is enough to make it worth running. So Ancient Power has become very, very popular on Charizard, and it's something that's going to be very popular at Worlds, which just makes the mirrors even more disgusting, right? But then you have this Life Orb Venusaur. This team never really runs Sleep Powder at all. It's usually almost always this Life Orb. It's very, very important damage-wise. It just kind of turns into like, I think of like, this is going to date me, but I think of like Ludicolo in the Rain, right? It's like this really, really strong sweeper, right? That's just doing tons of damage, and that's all it's there to do. It just kind of breaks the speed ceiling because Chlorophyll is a very strong ability. You can outspeed stuff like Basculegion and Tailwind, and you just do a ton of damage. And that's all you're asking from the Venusaur. You're just leading Charizard Venusaur not to put things to sleep like you'll see on other teams, but instead just to be an offensive pin paired with Charizard. Not much can actually lead into them offensively outside of something like, I don't know, maybe your own Charizard, but now they have Ancient Power for that, right? Then you're going to see Incineroar. Incineroar is very, very important for both Toxapex and also Charizard. Incineroar is going to spread Intimidate. Incineroar is one of the best guys in the game. He's really, really good at enabling Toxapex though, because you do start to stack up those poisons. A big part of the team is going to be poisoning things and just getting that residual damage over time. Infestation is very, very powerful. Yawn's very powerful. So Fake Out just kind of enables everything on the team, while also providing Intimidate. Sylveon has went with this Yawn set, which I think has become, this is just like, again, the most standard basic version of this team. And the Yawn set just fits really, really well with Infestation, good with Fake Out, good with Charizard. You don't really need Hyper Beam because you're okay with the slower pace of the game. And sometimes Yawn can just set up really, really nasty checkmates into those setup Pokemon, specifically stuff like Delphox, right? Delphox, Floette, just those annoying Pokemon that if they go to sleep, the game becomes a lot easier. So I do really, really like to see the Yawn here. I think it makes sense with the pacing of the team. And also, Infestation plus Yawn is very powerful. Infestation traps you in, Yawn puts you to sleep. Then, of course, we have Toxapex, who is just very positive into just very hard to kill. There's not a lot of psychic types. There's not a lot of electric types. There's a lot of ground types, but it's just mostly Garchomp. So Toxapex gets to kind of run away with a lot of matchups by itself. Infestation and Toxic is a deadly combo. And then it does have a lot of support as well with Wide Guard, specifically paired with Charizard. We saw Wolf use this at the NAIC, and he did incredibly well with it. It's a very, very potent strategy. It's hard to break through Charizard and Toxapex together. Sometimes you just use Toxapex to Wide Guard. Sometimes you use it to checkmate with Toxic. And then finally, Scarf Garchomp. He's just kind of good all-arounder. Obviously, Garchomp is one of the best Pokemon in the game. Scarf gives you that extra speed ceiling that this team kind of misses because it doesn't have any speed control of its own. So you rely on the natural speed of both Garchomp and Venusaur with their items and abilities respectively to give you that speed that you wouldn't otherwise have access to. I think it's just really an incredible team, and I think at the World Championships, this team is going to make a splash. Wouldn't be surprised maybe even if it won. Next up here, we have Justin Burns. So Justin Burns is running a pretty similar Big Six variant that we've seen around a lot, but he does have some really cool techs here, specifically the Calm Mind on Floette. When we see Big Six, I always say it's Whimsicott and Floette. They never change except for their nature. But in this case, we actually have Calm Mind, which I think makes a lot of sense. Incineroar does function pretty well on Big Six. It does leave you a bit weaker to, I would say, enemy Basculegions, specifically Scarf ones can be annoying, but you can still get around that with the Sun. You can still intimidate them. You can still play the game, but I will say they're a little bit more annoying when you don't have something like the King Gambit that is usually there. So you have this core, right? It's really sick because you can Incin can obviously enable both Charizard, Garchomp, Basculegion. He can just be annoying, spread intimidate, but then you can also just pair it with Floette and you can just start fake out, Calm Minding, setting up your Floette to sweep you, and then Incin can easily parting shot out, and then you bring in your Whimsicott and press Tailwind, and now the Floette has Tailwind and a boost. It's just a very, very cool combo. This stuff has been seen on Big Six before, but not a lot of people are currently using it, so it's cool to see Justin using it here. Justin's had a very, very good season. I wouldn't say he's a sleeper, but like the tournaments he's been showing up to, he does well at, and he's consistently getting cuts. So this is a team definitely to watch out for. Otherwise, it is just kind of the standard Big Six fare, opting for the Life Orb Garchomp instead of the Life Orb Basculegion. Pretty standard Garchomp set, standard Whimsicott. We're actually seeing Solar Power Charizard. There's no shenanigans here like Ancient Power. Last Respects, Wave Crash, Adaptability, Mystic Water Basque, and then of course that Incineroar that just kind of brings everything together. I think Incin on Big Six is very good, and it's something that we do see a decent amount of, but Justin really piling well. Next up here we have Julio, with a setup focused Floette Delphox team. So this team is just it's so boring in how it functions, but it is very, very effective, right? You basically start out and you say, which Mega, Delphox or Floette? And you pick them. Which side, right? Do you want the red pill or the blue pill, right? And you pick one and you're like, okay, I think Delphox is good here. So then you just bring one of your 4 other support Pokemon. You're usually going to lead one of your Incineroar or Sinestro, or not Sinestro, Incineroar or Sneasler. You can lead Sinestro, but you're going to lead Incin, Sneasler, and you're going to, with the Mega, and then you're going to press Fake Out, and you're going to press either Calm Mind, or you're going to set up Nasty Plot, right? And then from there, you just try to sweep them. Obviously, you could also lead Mousehold with them. Mousehold is a very, very cool addition here, because I think it obviously gets even more focused on Protect the Queen. But Mousehold is also very, very cool because a lot of teams don't have answers for 2 redirectors, right? They can beat Sinistcha, they can find their way through it, but can they find their way through Sinistcha and Mousehold? That's where it starts to get a little bit spooky. So I think it's kind of cool. It's very uninteractive in what they're trying to do. They also still do have coaching on Sneasler, which is kind of crazy because we're just coaching probably our Mega for a defense boost, which is so wild. But Sneasler can get those poison touches. Incin is going to be Pasture Berry to pair up even better into those rain teams. And then, yeah, you're just Calm Minding. You have Draining Kiss to heal yourself back up, or you also have an Aqua Berry Sinistcha to give yourself a better matchup versus Sun. So you have the rain matchup right here, the Sun matchup here, and then you just try to keep them alive forever. It's very good. Next up, we have Jeremy Cote, again with the same team. Ancient Powers Art. This guy is actually modest, though, instead of timid. So he's saying, hey, I want a little bit more oomph. Which is fair. No Protect on Incineroar, Scarf, Garchomp, Yawn. This is exactly what we've already seen, so I'm not going to break it down further. He did decide to go modest, though, instead of the timid. Then next up here, we have Carlos with kind of a crazy team. Yeah, okay. It's kind of wild because you usually don't see them paired together. We're also seeing a White Herb Garchomp as well, which is something you don't see anymore at all. Now that we've gotten Life Orb, usually that's what you see. But we do have Mega Charizard. This is basically just a Toxapex team, by the way, but with Aerodactyl. And I think Aerodactyl is cool. You know, again, we do have the Venusaur Charizard combination. We can run Ancient Power because we have the grass coverage on Venusaur. I don't think I mentioned that earlier, but that is why we do run Ancient Power, is because we don't need Solar Beam because we have a whole ass of Venusaur. So we're able to kind of cheat a little bit. Aerodactyl just provides a lot of utility. Like instead of Toxapex, Toxapex provides utility and it's very annoying, but Aerodactyl gives you Tailwind. He gives you Wide Guard, and he gives you just a really hard-hitting Pokemon and stuff like Sneasler, Whimsicott, Dueling Beat's very strong. It also lets you hit enemy Charizards even stronger, which I think is neat. So I think he's not a bad addition to the team whatsoever. It just kind of changes the function of the team, right? Like, on the other version, it's more about kind of stalling a lot of the time and using your natural bulk to outtrade your opponents, where this team does kind of have a, hey, I'm going to hit you really hard. I'm going to set up Tailwind and I'm going to press Earthquake and Heat Wave. What are you going to do about it? And I think that's kind of cool, especially we see the choice of the white herb on Garchomp as well, allowing him to do more damage even if you do get intimidated, which I think is valuable, as Incin does get more and more valuable into the format as time goes on. It's still going to be that Yawn Sylveon, and it's still going to be that Life Orb Venusaur, and then just a pretty standard Incin. I think this 6 is really strong though. It's just a little different than the Toxapex version, right? But it is just the same 5 Pokemon. But I think Aerodactyl does do a lot into changing how the team functions. Then we have Leo Fonteville, who is just a devious setup player, I believe. With Delphox Blastoise, once again, Delphox Blastoise is kind of crazy to see. I feel like they did die down a little bit. But Blastoise is still good. He's still potent. He's still hard to deal with. And he does pair well with Delphox, again, very similarly to Floette. But I think what Delphox Blastoise does too is or what Blastoise does, I should say specifically, he's explosive. He's going to sweep the game in 3 turns. And he's either going to do that or he's going to die trying to do that, right? Because he does get really frail with the Shell Smash. He lowers each of his defenses. It can be very tricky. But we see Sinistcha here as well to help enable that. We also see Swords Dance King Gambit, which is very popular on these types of teams because you do have double fake out and you have a Sinistcha, so it's like, hey, why not let the King Gambit have a turnip sweeping, right? So you basically have 3 setup Pokemon, you have 2 fake out users, and then you have a healer. The Sinistcha is very, very important though, just because it, when you have Blastoise, you need this Pokemon because you need to get the healing going. I see Quick Guard on Sneasler, which I think is very potent on these teams, especially with Blastoise specifically, because he is weak to stuff like Sucker Punch, right? And it does have the same priority as Fake Out, and Sneasler's one of the fastest Fake Outers in the game, so Sneasler has that value. It can block almost every Fake Out besides its own. Even then, it's a speed tie, so that's cool. And then we see Helping Hand on Incin, which is very cool, especially with the Blastoise and the Delphox. It's also modest Delphox, so it's not trying to be fast. Next up, we have Naoto. Is this the Naoto? Oh, this is the Naoto. Oh my gosh. For those who do not know, Naoto, let me go to their Twitter. Naoto is, in my opinion, just one of the best players of all time, right? Naoto, to me, he might be number 3. So I don't know if Naoto has a Worlds invite. No, he does. He does. Okay. So Naoto is the 2019 world champion. He also got top 4 at Worlds 2015 in the chalk meta. And then not only that, you're like, okay, Colin, he was playing with the plumbers, dude. Who cares, right? No, dude. In 2023, he also got top 8 again. So he has 3 world championships top 8s. And Naoto is coming to play here with kind of a crazy team, very similar to the team we saw earlier, the same 6 exactly, but very different sets. So we see that Ancient Power Weather Ball Charizard once again paired with the Venusaur, but the Venusaur this time is not Life Orb and is instead Sleep Powder with Wide Lens. He really wants to hit those Sleep Powders. He wants to be consistent, but then you're like, okay, why not the Sash? Why not just put the Sash on there? You get 2 chances. The Sash is on the Aerodactyl. Instead of Mega Aerodactyl, it is going to be a Sash Aerodactyl to give you that Tailwind and just be consistent at setting it up. It's very interesting to see this type of Aerodactyl because I feel like we haven't seen it in months. This was a very early regulation MA set and Pokemon that was really thriving back then, but as time went on, we saw the Mega Aerodactyl rise, we saw Whimsicott rise. This guy is kind of a relic of the past, but Naoto showing that it can still be very, very effective, getting himself a 6-1 finish and getting 14th in this tournament. Incin's going to be normal. It's also going to be Hyper Beam Sylveon, a little bit more aggression than the Yawn, and then Life Orb Garchomp. So it's kind of similar-ish to the other team, but at the same time, these sets really do change up a lot, specifically the Hyper Beam and that Sleep Powder. Naoto, oh man, I'm excited. I want to see him do well again. Naoto is just such a sick player to watch. And then, who even was this? I was too excited. Lewis Markle. Okay, Lewis Markle, for those who do not know, is a setup Calyrex god. Very, very strong setup player here. And this has kind of been the team he's been running in these victory roads with just solo Mega Floette. He pairs it with the Incin, with the Sneasler, and the Sinistcha, as we normally see. He does run a little bit more offensive of a Sinistcha with the Focus Sash, which is kind of crazy, but I think it makes a lot of sense. We saw a Colbur Berry earlier, and we saw an Occa Berry. Obviously, those are good in their respective matchups, but the Sash kind of just transcends matchups, right? It's good no matter what you bring it into. It's good into King Gambit, good into Charizard, good into just everything. So you can get that healing off, and you just guarantee probably get another one, because you switch it in, switch it out, right? It's going to live the turn because of the Sash. But I think what makes this team kind of cool is actually this Scarf Basque Legion. I will say it's also like White Herb Sneasler, which is not something you usually see anymore or on these teams. But the Scarf Basque Legion I think is very neat as well, because it gives you kind of another offensive piece where normally you see a double mega team, but this team's saying, hey, my second mega is King Gambit. He can set up and go crazy, or I have a Basque Legion that can kind of checkmate you, right? Like, because Floette is so good at trading, just being obnoxious and just chipping everything down, potentially for a Scarf Basque sweep. This is just the team he's been using. Again, this meta is all about comfort, and that is his comfort. And then next up here we have Calculus, Marcus Co. Marcus is a Big Six connoisseur. He's been playing a ton of Big Six, doing very, very well in game, and just kind of refining the Big Six to make it as good as he can be for himself. Things to note here: Modest Ancient Power, Life Orb Basque Legion, Akaberry King Gambit with all the coverage, which is very, very positive, specifically into the mirror against the enemy Charizard. Citrus Bulky Garchomp, and then Standard Whims. Nothing crazy from Marcus, but that is what he's using. Then we have Marco Silva. Okay. With just... Okay. It's the standard team. So this is the team that Eric Rios used. I used as well at NAIC to get second. Or Eric got second place with it. I got top 32. But this team has also recently just kind of got a revival. We saw Ko, the Japanese player, do incredibly well with this team, finishing in the third in the in-game ladder. He was third. So yeah, this team kind of came back. Marco has run stuff very adjacent to this, all of this regulation. We saw him really like Aerodactyl. Usually he runs a Sash Aerodactyl, but I think he also really enjoys using Farigiraf, Sylveon, and Charizard. So nothing too crazy here. This team is very similar to his NASC team. He just had Incineroar over King Gambit, and then he had a Garchomp as well. So it's just kind of a natural next step. But I do think it does change up the team a lot. I think this is also just a very solid team in the metagame. I think there's a couple of weaknesses, but as the metagame becomes more and more varied, it's just kind of about hitting your matchups and missing your bad ones, right? And I think that this team does have a lot of very potent good matchups, and it does give you so many tools. You have Trick Room, Tailwind, Double Mega, Sash King Gambit. You kind of have it all. You even have Yawn on this version, which is not something you normally see. So you just kind of let a good player be very good. It's something I say a lot, and I think that team is perfect for someone like Marco. Next up, we have Narrad here with a Mega Blaziken. He's getting top 8 at Worlds. I swear to you, Blaziken's getting top 8 at Worlds, and maybe it's Narrad, dude. Maybe it's Narrad. But Narrad's running Mega Blaziken Frostlass, which is not something you see much of. I mean, I don't need to look. This is the only Blaziken in Top Cut. But I think Blaziken's pretty cool. Obviously, its synergy with King Gambit is just well known at this point. It's very hard to deal with King Gambit if you're leading something like Incin, which is something that does shut down Blaziken to an extent, but it still does have this super effective CC. They just have so much offensive synergy, and I feel like Narrad is a huge King Gambit player. I would probably argue that most of his world invite was earned with King Gambit in Regulation H. That was when he was popping off at these regionals. So I expect Narrad to play something like this at Worlds. I mean, he's probably just going to play these 6, right? Like, this is clearly his team that's working for him. But let's take a closer look here. So the Blaziken is going to be that standard Blaziken moveset, double stabs of close combat flare blitz, and then rock slide for the enemy Charizards. Frostlass is also kind of crazy, but it kind of makes sense with what you're trying to accomplish. King Gambit, Frostlass, Sneasler have excellent synergy, and it allows them to just really shine. You can set up Aurora Veils for your King Gambit to set up Swords Dances. You can also fake out to set up those Aurora Veils, and you can fake out to set up the Swords Dance. They're just really cohesive together. And I think just swapping out Frostless for something like Blaziken also kind of works, because Blaziken does appreciate dead turns. Obviously, with the speed boost ability, he's racking up speed to just break the speed ceiling. So if you pair him with stuff like Fake Out, you can get those speeds like absolutely nuts, so that even in tail when you're outspeeding stuff, right? So Frostless also benefiting from the Fake Out to set up stuff. Then we have Incin, who's also just, again, pressing those Fake Outs, potentially enabling both King Gambit, Frostless, or Blaziken with Helping Hand, which I think is very neat, especially Blaziken, because I think sometimes he just falls a little bit short, so being able to get that Helping Hand boost seems really nice. Obviously, it's going to be Swords Dance King Gambit. You pair that with these double Fake Outers. You also just pair it with Blaziken. He's just really hard to remove on the board. Then we have a bold Sinistra with Akaberry. Obviously, Charizard is going to be a little bit spooky here. I think one of Insyn's other benefits is that he's good into Charizard because Charizard is just going to destroy everything, and Charizard's one of the most important Pokemon in the entire metagame. So having extra switch-ins, specifically this Akaberry, could be really, really valuable to help enable both Blaziken, Frostus, or Kingambit with the healing. Is just very, very nice. It also has Trick Room to give you a little bit of a Trick Room mode, specifically for Kingambit. I think you can set up really annoying 50-50s where it's like, hey, does Kingambit go for Protect while they Trick Room, or does it just go for Rage Powder, Kowtow, Sucker, right? I think it's very cool. Especially, it can just kind of ease up those endgame situations. And then we have a pretty standard White Herb Sneasler. Sash was available, but opting for the White Herb and the more damage with Gunk Shot. Again, though, I think Narrate is a really, really excellent Kingambit player, so I think it makes sense to see a team like this from him. Then we have Marcus Hamon Yoshi. So Marcus actually went on a crazy tear yesterday because this tournament, I'm not covering the whole thing, but this tournament was really strange in the way it functioned because you'll notice here it's like a pretty small tournament. It was only 94 people in day 2, but the way it worked was there was actually like 1,000-person free to enter tournament on day 1, and if you were able to go 8-0 in that tournament, or 8 wins, 2 losses, anywhere in between, you're allowed to play in day 2 for a chance at the money. Because and then it was also, I should have mentioned this at the beginning, but you also could qualify for this tournament by winning a prior victory road. You got automatically placed in day 2. So Marcus had to play in day 1 and he went 8-0 to make it into day 2. And then you'll also notice that he went 7-0 in day 2. So he only lost in the tournament here to Shohei Kimura on the standard Zine stuff, or standard what's it called? Not Zine stuff. That guy is Zine. He lost to Shohei on the standard Toxpack stuff. We haven't gotten to Shohei yet, but Marcus had an incredible tournament, and I believe in day 1 he played Basculegion over Farigiraf, and in day 2 just played Farigiraf. This is again another very important team you need to know how to beat in the metagame or at Worlds. This team is just so bizarre with how strong it is. I don't know. I'm really conflicted about this team because I think that it has a lot of really, really good tools. It puts a lot of pressure on, but sometimes it feels like it's legitimately terrible, right? Like, I'm serious. I've tried it a lot. I wanted to love it. I wanted this to be my team that I could lock in at Worlds a month ago and just smile and show up to the tournament and have a good time. But it's not my team. It doesn't work for me. I think it has a really steep learning curve. I think it is really difficult to use because we are seeing these great players find success with it. Like, they are doing well. Marcus going undefeated until top 16 is incredible. But I think it is very like wishy-washy in that way where like sometimes it's like, hey, if you don't get the reads and you're not playing 10 out of 10, it's hard to win sometimes because the team requires that of you. But I think that's a fair team to choose for the World Championships. It may not vibe with me, and I may think it's garbage, but I also know that this team will do well, and it's a team you need to know how to beat. I think part of it is just like how hard it is to call leads, to stop all the pressure, right? Because they have so many options. They have Fake Out plus Kingambit, right? They could just Fake Out, set up Swords Dance, sweep you, right? They also have Harkonine plus anything, or not Harkonine, they have Staraptor plus anything, Staraptor plus Arc, Staraptor plus Sylveon. Set up Tailwind to start sweeping. It goes pretty hard, but then you also have a Trick Room mode with both Kingambit and Sylveon. Then you have a Sash Harkonine that is so hard to remove. I think it's just like you're so overwhelmed with all their options because they truly can lead a combination of anything. Like even Raichu Staraptor is a viable lead because then you just press Fake Out Tailwind and you Mega which one you think is better. It's so obnoxious, but I think that's the strength, right? Is that it is an unlimited like Swiss Army knife of a team. You just have to find which blade fits the matchup that you're in, like figure out how you're going to stop them. And so I think it is a really good team, and if you're playing really well, you go nuts. But nothing too crazy here with the standard Tailwind Staraptor, Trick Room Helping Hand for Farigiraf, Swords Dance Kingambit again pairs really well with that Raichu. Sylveon's going to be Hyper Beam because it's going to be attacking in Tailwind or in Trick Room, and then this Sash, Hisuian Arcanine is just dealing insane damage. The only issue too is of course missing Head Smash. That is the worst part. But yeah, shout outs to Marcus, clearly showing that he's ready to come for Worlds, having an incredible tournament here with this team that he clearly is just mastering. And I feel like Marcus as of late, he's obviously does work with Wolf. Sometimes we do see him use Wolf teams, but I feel like Marcus also just says like, hey, Wolf, you do your thing. Your team is awesome, but I think I found something I really vibe with. So I think that might be the case here, and I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Marcus make an incredibly deep run at the World Championships using this team or something very similar. Next up here is a pretty crazy team. We've got Whimsicott Torkoal, which is not something you see every day. We have Staraptor. I think Staraptor paired with Farigiraf is really, really potent. You also do have a Fake Tears Charm set to enable the Staraptor, which is pretty crazy with Roost. But Staraptor Farigiraf is, I think, a pretty potent lead because you can set up Trick Room pretty reliably. You can actually just intimidate them, Trick Room them, and then just start spamming CCs, right? Another option, of course, is the Sneasler to fake out with the Farigiraf. This is just a tail room team. Like, it's like, hey, what am I going to do to you? It's a solo Mega Staraptor team, but they're saying, all right, am I pressing Trick Room? Or am I going to set up Tailwind and just sweep you with Whimsicott Staraptor, Glimmora, Sneasler? Or do I just press Fake Out Trick Room, sweep you, and then have Staraptor clean up the late game? It's a very cool team. It's like kind of a similar-ish team to the team that got second on the in-game ladder that was doing very, very well with a Trick Room Staraptor mode. Glimmora is very cool as well. I think Glimmora is super obnoxious, especially paired with Staraptor. Things that are good in a Staraptor don't like Glimmora and vice versa. Also, I feel like Glimmora Staraptor appreciates Glimmora because the toxic spikes are there. You can spam Roost, you can spam those CCs. It's a really, really good stall mon. It can survive a lot of turns while doing a lot of damage. Paired with toxic spikes seems incredible. Obviously, we have this Trick Room mode with Torkoal, Farigiraf, all damaging fire moves on that Torkoal. Whimsicott is here to enable Staraptor with Charm and Fake Tears, which is not something you see a lot of at the highest level. The Protect the Staraptor combos don't usually work. I feel like it's more like you kind of meet in the middle, like maybe you have Charm, but having Charm and Fake Tears is pretty incredible. And then that Fake Out Rock Slide Sneasler that we've seen on the other Trick Room type of teams. And then we have, once again, that pretty standard Charizard Toxapex team. Nothing crazy on this one. And then we're going to see it here as well with Zine. Shohei, obviously a very, very good player, someone to watch out for. He is the king of standard playing this team. But yeah, nothing crazy on this team either. Same version. And then we have a pretty crazy Charizard Gengar team. I don't think I've genuinely ever seen these two paired up. I really don't think I have. But still very cool nonetheless. They do have the common like Gengar partners, right? Like Incin, Sneasler, Dragonite are just a really, really good trio to pair with Gengar. But then to have a Charizard as well that can also pair with them is kind of neat. The Dragonite's very strong. E-Speed Inner Focus is just really consistent, very good. Dragon Claw, he's just very good into Charizard. He walls Charizard completely. Well, not Ancient Power, but Ancient Power isn't that really strong. It's really only for the other Charizards. You can use it into him, but it's not going to KO him. So you can do a lot of damage with that. Also, I mean, he also has Ancient Power Charizard to hit the other Charizards. Incin is going to be that fake out set again. We don't have Parasong, we instead have Substitute, so it makes sense. Sneasler is one of Gengar's best friends, funnily enough. They both are weak to ground, they're both poison types, but you just kind of need something for King Gambit, and Sneasler is one of the best things for that. And then a Scarf Garchomp, who I think pairs incredibly well with Charizard, but also Scarf Garchomp paired with Gengar has been a thing we've seen very early on in this regulation, and just Scarf Pokemon paired with Gengar are obnoxious because he traps you in, you bring them in, and then you're trapped against a Scarf Pokemon that will outspeed you and kill you. And then we're in the top 4. Yippee. Okay, we got Big 6. All right. This is the standard bread and butter best Big 6, in my opinion, right now. We have Mega Charizard, Mega Floette. Take notes, guys. This is the best one. Kind of funny that I think the best one. Like, I'm not just saying that. I think this one's the best one. I swear. I've said it in other videos. But the idea here is that, Whimsicott and Floette, they don't really change. I like the Chobo Berry King Gambit because I think it's really important to beat the other King Gambits. I also really like No Protect King Gambit because I think both coverage moves, it's too hard to choose from, in my opinion. I like to run both Iron Head and Low Kick personally. And again, having that Chobo Berry frees you up so that if the enemy King Gambit does hit you, you're chilling. Life Orb Basculation is my favorite too. It's just so disgusting damage-wise. He literally just nukes your entire team. And then, of course, we have the Solar Beam Charizard, no Ancient Power, which I think is fair because Solar Beam is so good into enemy Basculations that I personally do like Solar Beam still, but I understand why they run Ancient Power. And then Bulky Citrus Garchomp has just been fire on Big 6 lately. It's just been doing very, very well. And then in third place here, we got Dorian with a solo Mega Gengar team. So this is very, very similar to what Michael Durbesti ran. but he had Swampert over King Gambit. But on his previous version, he was using King Gambit in that last slot here. So I think it's kind of neat. King Gambit is specifically very good at killing other King Gambits, especially when you pair him with Gengar. Also, like, Gengar's annoying Pokemon are like King Gambit, Basculegion, which, like, King Gambit's very good into both of those, so it makes sense to pair him there. We have that Sash, Adamant, Sneasler that's doing tons of damage with Rock Slide. Also, whoa, it's not sub, it's actually Perish Song on the Gengar as well. What? What? Perish Song Gengar, no Protect Instant is crazy. It's just like a potential mode they have, maybe a late game situation Perish Song can pop off. But yeah, this is very similar to Michael Their Besties team, but doesn't have Substitute, which I think was very, it completely differentiated it from a Perish team. But no Protect on Instant is just crazy to me. Wow. But you do have the double Fake Out. You can cycle them in and out. It does make sense. Oh my god, wait, no. The Sneasler doesn't even have Fake Out. What? This team's nuts. This team's nuts. Low kick, King Gambit, good, makes sense. Scarf Ninetales is very disgusting, very good into the enemy Garchomp specifically. So I am a big fan of the Scarf Ninetales, and then the Life Orb Dragonite that we've talked about already, just very good into Charizard. In second place, we have the Crow with... This team just doesn't die, man. Scoville and Frostlass just doesn't die. I expect this team to pop off at Worlds now. It's just, there's going to be one in top 8. Like, for real, there's going to be one. This team just doesn't go away, man. The idea here, let me explain it to you. For the probably genuinely like 15th time, the idea is simple. You can set up King Gambit, pair it with the Scoville, and I think it's truthfully very much a King Gambit focused team. It has Swords Dance. You pair that with Fake Out from Sneasler, you can pair it with Aurora Veil from Frostlass, and of course Rage Powder from Scoville. Lycanroc is very important because it bodies Charizard in Tailwind, in Trick Room. As long as there isn't an Armor Tail there or Psychic Terrain, he can kill Charizard with Excel Rock. He's Adamant Nature, close combat's also very, very valuable into the enemy King Gambits. What am I missing? Frostlass is just very potent into the metagame. Scoville is a fun second mega. This team just sucks in the Garchomp, but you do have ways around it with both Frostlass and the burn from Scoville. Sneasler is still going to be wider because the Sash is so important on Lycanroc that you do need it. Usually it's Citrus Berry Basculegion, but this one is Life Orb for a little bit more oomph, which I think is cool. This team is just good. I think it's going to top cut Worlds, man. There's no escaping it. And then the team that won was Delphox Blastoise, which is something I didn't expect. Like, going into this tournament, I think this kind of speaks to it, right? Because I don't think Delphox Blastoise is the best archetype in the game. But this guy running Delphox Blastoise, maybe he was just the best player in the tournament that day. And I think that's how Worlds is going to go. I think we're going to see, like, I don't think we get to predict what team will win Worlds or who will win Worlds. Because I think it's going to be who plays the best on the day of with the team that they have the most comfort with. I think it's just a comfort format. There's no... It's just nonsensical. The Pokemon, people are just choosing teams they love, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But the meta is so diverse, and it's just about who dodges the matchups they hate, who gets the matchups they like, and who is playing better than everyone else. It doesn't seem like there's a call for Worlds. It really doesn't. Now, obviously, I totally expect some crazy shit to come out. I'm sure people are hiding what they're bringing to Worlds. I'm sure people are going to bring something crazy that may counter the whole meta. Maybe I'm wrong, but I do think that maybe we just see someone who's mastered a team and has an amazing tournament win the tournament. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. It's very exciting to me, but I do think that I couldn't predict which Mega will win Worlds because of that reason. We also see Charizard getting ripped up at the top once again. We did have one in top 4. He had a good tournament, but he didn't win. Delphox Blastoise. This is the pretty standard version. Nasty Plot, Shell Smash. We got the Fake Out Brothers. We have Helping Hand. We have Sneasler. Colberberry is like the only weird thing. I think he usually see Akka, but clearly this guy's like, hey, I like Colberberry. I think it's very good in a King Gambit. I think that's valuable. And we have the third King Gambit Queen to set up and go absolutely nuts, right? We have 3 setup Pokemon and 3 supports. It's a very simple team. I've talked about that team a lot too, and it just works. But yeah, I think like closing thoughts on this Victory Road tournament is like, okay, we don't have like a metagame snapshot, but I think it's just like, hey, in this World Championship, I'm giving you advice right now. If you're going to Worlds, here's my advice to you. Or if you're trying to climb the ladder, it works as well. Use what you like using and what you find the most success with or have the most fun with. I think that's truly what it is. If you're a Big 6 guy, lock in Big 6. If you're a Delphox Blastoise guy, apparently lock in Delphox Blastoise because it's still winning tournaments in the Big 2-6. If you like Staraptor, run Staraptor. You like Mega Gengar, make him shine, right? It really is like, I think a lot of people think this format is really stale, really awful, and I kind of agree, but I think there's also levels to this where it's just like, hey, a lot of what's just finding success and doing well is just what they are simply the best with. It doesn't matter what the team is, it matters who the player is and what they're clicking with, right? Because Marcus, again, he just went nasty with this team. Could I play this team to save my family's life? No way. But Marcus can. I could probably play something else, and I maybe could have cut this tournament. Like, I'm not gonna get ahead of myself, right? But maybe the team for me is not the team that's winning, right? Like, maybe the team for you isn't this Blastoise team. Maybe it's something else, and it's just picking that comfort. And I think that's what this tournament is really telling me going into Worlds, and what I expect to see at the World Championships is going to be a lot of comfort. Now, I do think there will be Metacalls. We'll have to see, but comfort is king in Regulation MB. So the Japanese metagame isn't super different from what we're currently seeing in the Victory Road tournament that we just covered, but I wanted to specifically break down the top 4 teams because they don't really have a lot of information about the teams per se. There's a ton of teams here. Again, I will link this down below so you have access to it if you want to scroll through, maybe get some inspiration. But a lot of their teams are the established teams, right? Like we see Delphox Blastoise, right? We see okay, Rotom Heat's pretty crazy. We see this team with the fucking Staraptor Raichu, right? Like, there's a lot of very well-established teams and some of the other teams that we just can't, like, click on or have access to, but they did stream this tournament. And I will link down the streams down below so you can, like, watch it or see the information. But a couple of, on the stream, they did show some open sheets as well. So I'm going to break down just the top 4 because those are the 4 most important teams in the tournament. And I think it kind of covers the remaining teams that were kind of missing from the Victory Road tournament to give you some good meta analysis. But what I will say before we hop into that, I do want to say this Toxapex team is going absolutely insane in Japan. We saw literally some of the best players. We see we see Ubislow right here, right? He's running Toxapex. If we scroll down a little bit more, where is he? Shade Vieira is running Big 6 with a Staraptor. Very cool. I'm trying to look for Kinigawa, but I think I might have missed him. There he is. Kinigawa also ran the Toxapex team. I think the Toxapex team is going to be very, very important going into Worlds, but I've talked about it a lot. It's very simple in what it's trying to accomplish, and we kind of know what it's doing, but I did just want to mention that it's very, very popular over here in Japan. I mean, you can just see it right here in top 8 alone. We have Rinya-sun using it, we have Ubislow using it, and we have Shandy Holmes using it, right? And then we see something a little bit more standard, or like not standard, but this is the standard Parish Como version of this team. And then let's hop into those top 4 teams and break them down. So the first team we're talking about is Big 6, but with some really crazy adjustments onto it. We see a Sash King Gambit paired with Fairy Feather Sunny Day Whimsicott. Again, this tournament was open sheet best of 3. It was a giant, like, I believe 300 person in-person Japanese tournament, which is something they don't do a lot of, honestly, especially grassroots. We see Life Orb Garchomp, and then instead of the normal Floette that we see there, we see a Mega Aerodactyl with just mad coverage, and then a Overheat Charizard. This team just has the patented, like, Japan sauce. I feel like even when the sheets are open, they don't really care. They just like running kind of crazy different sets that they personally really find enjoyable or they really like. I feel like also this tournament is heavily influenced that I feel like Japanese players tend to play on ladder more than something like Pokemon Showdown, so they don't really practice in best of 3. So they're just like, hey, I may be using Overheat Charizard in best of 1, but I think it's just good, so I'm gonna bring it to this tournament. This team was just absolutely nuts, just super, super bizarre team, but with some fun techs. I think Sunny Day is neat. I also think Overheat is kind of funny, and that Sash King Gambit is definitely very, very deadly. It's just like a really more, like much more aggressive version of Big 6 without Floette. I think it's kind of crazy, but this team did get top 4. The other team in top 4 is this Mega Dragonite Mega Aerodactyl team. Now, this is a team that I think did really, really well into one of the Victory Road tournaments that I covered previously, but this team clearly still has the sauce. This is actually the guy who did well with it in that tournament as well, so he's clearly just locking it back in and running it back. I think this team is really neat. It relies a lot on Aerodactyl to give you that speed control, or Dragonite to put the pressure on, but this team had an insane win rate, and I wouldn't be lying to you if I did. I would be lying to you if I did say I didn't consider this for Worlds. I think this team is very, very potent, very good in the current metagame, and it really popped off here Sash Sneasler to help set up those tailwinds, Dragonite with the coverage and extreme speed, which is something you don't see a lot of. You just don't see a lot of Mega Dragonite, but clearly it is still working for him. Basket Legion to be, apparently it's just very, very bulky. You pair that with the Tailwind, pair that with the Fake Out. It's just going nuts. Hyper Beam Sylveon to just do pressure in Tailwind, and then coverage King Gambit with 4 attacking moves to just try and sweep in Tailwind. It's just very much like a kind of priority spam team, but it also does have a Tailwind mode, or you just kind of rely on just trading better with Dragonite, Sneasler, and the squad, right? You have very bulky Pokemon that Dragonite can trade really well with Multiscale. You pair that with Basket Legion. He can clean up end games, whether Tailwind's up or not. Also, Aerodactyl is very neat in the way that he can be brought without his Mega Evolution. You can just set up Tailwinds with him. But yeah, this was the other team that got top 4. It did do well on Victory Road, and it's something that I think you kind of got to be prepared for, or you have to watch out for potentially at Worlds. I don't think it's going to be very popular, but I do think, you know, like maybe this guy could go very deep with it, but I do think other people as well could go deep with this team. Now, this team didn't really show up in Victory Road at all. It wasn't actually in the top cut, but Sunrain is still a team that exists, and it did pop off in this tournament, getting second place here. This is the pretty standard version that's been going around right now, which is Mega Swampert and Mega Charizard. The idea is that obviously Sunrain, like the best way to use Rain is with Charizard. Charizard can get those juicy weather balls to potentially threaten other Charizards. Now it's getting a little interesting because the other Charizards are running Ancient Power, so the weather ball plan doesn't work as well as it did, but you still have this really potent Charizard Venusaur opener. Well, sometimes you can just bring the Rain Boys in the back, right? But then where this team gets really even more elevated, originally when we saw Alex Underhill win the Scraw Grand Champions Festival Encore, he was using Grimmsnarl paired with Basket Legion as the last two, but Swampert Grimmsnarl is just very, very potent. You can set up the rain, you parting shot into your Pelipper, and you just start hitting really hard with earthquakes or with those wave crashes. So you kind of have these two modes that are blended very, very well together. Archaludon also pairs incredibly well with Charizard defensive synergy wise. Also, like, again, you control the weather, right? You control when the rain comes on. You also notice that it is Hurricane Charizard as well. So Charizard does have really great moves to use in the rain if he needs to, with both Hurricane and the water type Weather Ball. Pelipper also has amazing synergy with Charizard. You can Wide Guard, you can set up Tailwind, all things he loves. So I just think it's just a very, very solid team with a lot of strong tools. Sleep Powder, Leaf Storm, Venusaur, Screens Grimmsnarl, and then now Mega Swampert to give you the second Mega that can put a ton of pressure on your opponent. Again, we didn't really see this team do well in the Victory Road tournament, which is kind of interesting. Like, is it dead? Do we have to worry about it? You never know. But yeah, it was very popular, but just didn't do super well. But we still do see it getting second here in Japan, which is pretty cool. Seeing a team that did really, really well in NA transition to Japan. And then finally, we have the team that won it all, piloted by my favorite Japanese player, Ko. Ko is just so incredible. This season has been so good for him. He got top 8 at Worlds, top 16 at EUIC, top 8 at NAIC, top 8 Japan Nationals, and then he did just win this giant grassroots tournament with none other than Bright Powder Incineroar. It was actually nuts. I was watching this tournament live, and he actually dodged a water spout from a Blastoise, and he just completely won the game because the water spout just missed, and he just hit back with Flare Blitz, set up his Sylveon for success, and won the game. But his team is very cool. We saw a variant of it in the other tournament, actually. I think they might have just, because this team actually took place, it was very interesting because this tournament took place in the middle of the night before the Victory Road tournament, so they were actually able to see these teams prior to locking in their own. So I do wonder if that had some influence there. But we see the Ancient Power Charizard here, White Herb Garchomp with double ground moves, Bright Powder Incineroar, Life Orb Venusaur, which we commonly see paired with these guys, that double flying double rock, so Wide Guard, Tailwind, Dual Wing Beat, Rock Slide, Aerodactyl, and then Yawn Hyper Voice Sylveon. It's just kind of a variant of the Toxapex stuff, but instead of Toxapex you have Aerodactyl. I think it's a very interesting type of team, and I do think that the Aerodactyl does add another element to the team. So I do expect Ko to do incredibly well at Worlds, and he may do it with this team. He really, really might. I think Ko is an incredible player. He won a huge Japanese grassroots tournament. Congrats to him. And I know he's hungry for the world champion dub, especially because he is a senior world champion. But thank you guys so much for watching. I think the metagame is just very much entrenched in what's good. What people like and what they like to use is good, right? It depends on the player, depends on the person. Obviously, we saw Sunrain do well here. We saw this guy's insane concoction of a Mega Aerodactyl team do well. Mega Aerodactyl just like actually went crazy. Like there were 3 in top 4. That's nuts. That's absolutely nuts. We see a little bit of Perish. We see tons of this Toxapex. So I think Worlds is just going to be completely wide open. And it's just a matter of who plays the best with their signature team, and can you establish that comfort in the time we have. There wasn't really any new teams that were revealed here. It felt like every tournament that we played in, there was a new team that was like, oh my gosh, new team, it's here, right? But these 2 tournaments felt like it was more about just kind of solidifying what's good and what is already established and just becoming the best player of that. So we'll see. I'm excited for Worlds, and I'm glad to have done these breakdowns with you, and hopefully the next breakdown you see of this, well, I know the next breakdown, I'm not doing another one next week, so the next breakdown you will see will be the Worlds team. So I'm excited to see where the meta goes. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this breakdown as usual, and I'll see you next time.